My name is Zabina Basim. I am the founder and Chief Engagement Officer for In Kids. We are a diverse and inclusive toy and education company. What started my journey? There was many things that started my journey, but I have to say it's also, like many of us here, growing up in the United States and not being identified as an American and being treated like a other, as we've been talking, and not feeling like I belong somewhere. So within my South Asian community, I never felt like I was South Asian. And within my American community, I never felt like I was American. About 40 years later, when I was older, I'm 43 now, so I'm aging myself, but I had children, and my children started asking questions to me at 5 years old that we had friends asking us, "Where are you from?" And my daughter didn't have an answer. She's like, "I'm from West Hills." And they're like, "No, where are you from?" And I was like, this is happening all over again. By trade, I'm a child psychiatrist. So I did go to med school, and I went to med school in India as well. So there even I felt that you're not Indian. And now I'm looking at my children and saying, this is happening all over again. And so my journey really started with my children to start this company and say, we need to start with our children in early education from K through 5th grade to start teaching them about diversity, about inclusivity, about belonging, and about culture and tradition. So guess what they can do and grow up is accept every individual as they are and who they are.
I sat next to her and I said, I feel like you're going to break it today. I don't want to sit next to you. I said that. I said, no, I'm good. And then you did that.
He knows me, and you just realized he judged me in a pitch. And Brian's like, you're from In Kids. I know you.
You did really well. I should have known. Since we're going all the way back, Brian Raccoon, General Partner Election Capital, we're a $50 million venture fund focused on women and minorities in the Midwest and the South. My start, I would say, literally 2 parents in Ohio and Cleveland went to Case Western University. One was a Nigerian transfer student, one's African American. Had we felt like it wasn't the right time, we'll go for adoption. I had Amish foster parents, so I suspect I'll be one of the few black people you ever meet. I had Amish parents for a period of time. You may know, let me know. And then ultimately adopted by 2 amazing parents. Father's an engineer, Philly. Mother's a psychologist. You're a psychologist. And I learned the soft skills from my mom, but also the code from my dad. And that's really how I got my start.
Love it. Raul?
Thank you, Kobe. Good afternoon to everybody. I am Raul Ayala from Puerto Rico, born and raised here. I have the privilege of having a great family. My dad was director of construction for the whole island back in the 40s and the 50s with the Puerto Rico Emergency Relief Administration. Myself, I have inherited that vein, and my dad always told me this is a small world. Get used to it. Work with everybody, and we did. We have done work with international firms from England, France, Spain. We're still a small firm. We have about 100 people working with us. And, we welcome the opportunity to help out. Kobe last night asked me to talk about resiliency today. And I told him if we had all night, so I could keep talking about resiliency and Puerto Rico, because we have been through a lot. The last 5 years, 2 major hurricanes, earthquakes, and now the COVID issue. So we've lost about 8,000 lives directly from that problem. About more than 200,000 people have left the island because of lack of facilities in the island. 90,000 homes that were endangered and lost, in the hurricanes. And it's been tough, but Puerto Ricans are resilient. We have had to work, with the new laws that were enacted only for Puerto Rico, through FEMA and through the government development block grants for the island, and we have had to adapt them. I'm part of a PMO that's changing the codes in the island for engineering work, and it's been tough, but it's a labor of love that we have to empathize with everybody that's been through all these problems, and I love it. So thank you all for being here and listening to us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Make sure y'all are still awake. I know it be past 5 o'clock on a Friday. My name is Haywood Perry. It is such a pleasure to be here with you all this week. I am an investor on behalf of Mark Cuban, Mark Cuban Companies. I celebrated my first year work anniversary with Mark Cuban Companies last week. Before that, had invested through SoftBank's Opportunity Fund, $100 million fund to invest in Black, Latinx, Native American founders. And prior to that, had been at Cape War Capital doing impact investing. But before all of that, it really does start at home. And I think about my parents who had known each other since the 7th grade, went to middle school, high school, college together at Howard University. Mom became a veterinarian, dad a professional dog trainer, and I grew up in their business. I grew up in their shop, and I was talking to Brian earlier about this, how when you think about who has pets, it's every type of person, right? From your average Joe to your CEO. And so I was raised around lots of different types of people and in an environment that at a very early age exposed me to the mountains and valleys of entrepreneurship. And so in the investment work that I do now, right, it is with a critical eye towards being present with founders, ensuring that they have access to the capital that they need, and making sure that I'm there to be a support and not an impediment. And so super excited to dive into today's panel.
Love it. So what you see and what I heard from you is that where you come from matters. And I want to talk about how you manage risk, how you tackle the fears that are associated with the work. Being an entrepreneur is scary. Making investments is inherently scary, right? So I want to hear from you just how do you process risk management? How do you determine whether to expand, whether not? How do you decide, am I going to buy another piece of equipment or not? Am I going to take a risk on an investment in Puerto Rico? Am I going to invest in Montgomery? Right? So how are you tackling risk? Let's start with you, Dave.
Okay, sure. So risk for me is an instrumental component of the investment process, right? What do they say? High risk, high reward, no risk, no reward. That's part of my due diligence process. And so, for folks who may not be as familiar with venture capital and the process, I'll share a bit about that. So Mark Cuban sends me emails with interesting companies who have reached out to him. What I then do is I conduct due diligence. So I'm taking a deep dive to better understand the problem that's being solved, the solution, product, service that they are offering, what customers are being targeted, and what is the market size for that customer. It's like, how big is the opportunity? I then take a look at the competitive landscape to get a sense of, all right, who are the major players? And then I look at the traction and the progress to date, right? And what the product roadmap and the future kind of outline of where they're seeking to take this company. And then finally, I'm taking a look at the team, right? Who are the folks who are executing? And the risk, right, is really associated with each and every component of that due diligence process, right? So I'm trying to get a sense of, is this the team with the knowledge and the know-how, the resources? Have they created the right product, right, to actually tackle the problem that they've identified?
I don't have that much of a fancy answer.
It's all a process.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I went to med school. I went right out of high school straight to med school. I did the typical South Asian Indian thing. Doctor, engineer, lawyer. That was it. And when I decided that I wanted to, I guess, be an entrepreneur or a businesswoman or a business person, I sat down with one person, and that was my husband, who is a brilliant man. He is a CPA and he works with many, many amazing businesses. And I said, this is my idea. And it was actually technically clothing. And he said, hell no, we're not doing clothing. You don't know anything about it. But what I told him was, I wanted to do something that's going to make a difference, not only in the world of our children, but us as adults. And also, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. So for the adults of tomorrow. And so when I make those decisions as I'm building, we're still a baby company. We're almost 2 years old. Every time I've had to make a decision, I sit with my team that I built, my board, who is right now just my husband and I, and a couple other people that I work, and I listen to my gut. Because my business and what I'm trying to build here for the future of tomorrow has to go off of what I have endowed and talk to other people. These toys, these academias that we're going into, we have to talk to those people, those kids, those young adults who have experienced what they needed and what they need. And then I start talking to the advisors of other companies. What are they doing? Because that's how I'm going to make these decisions, to know what some were right or others were wrong. And that risk really comes from what I have to see what my company needs and what my gut is telling me.
Love it. Raul, talk to us. How do you do it?
Sure. Team is very important. My team is my wife and my son, and they're back there sitting watching me. And I try to put through them, anything that we get into. I've myself started, about 12 companies in my short lifetime. And we have been, some of them turn out very good, and some of them turn out not that good. It's part of the issue. But behind each of these is the effort and the commitment to do something good, do it better, see how we can impact and contribute to our society in Puerto Rico and elsewhere. Because we do work in the Caribbean, and we have an office in Florida also. So, we take all those things into context and make them work as far as we can, but always, it has to be heartfelt, it has to be evaluated. We put the numbers, we put the feeling first and the numbers last to make sure it's going to work. And that's more or less how we do it.
So, I don't know if y'all heard that. He said 12 companies. So to those of you that are thinking about starting one, you better get with this guy before the festival's over. Talk to us, Brian. How do you manage risk? Tell us about it.
So I would say, as also a venture capitalist, Mr. Perry's answer is literally the correct mathematical answer. So if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. So we do that. But I would say, in addition to that, I spend a lot of my time getting my founders to take larger and bigger risks. What happens is, particularly women and minorities, is they don't get the funding they need. Then they do get the money, and they kind of like, what? You want me to spend it? Because they, in the past, and the past could be 10, 20 years of their life, if they didn't have the cash, that was it. So they could only count on themselves, and not a bank to bail them out, or a venture capital to bail them out. And it's a really hard thing to learn, to spend the money that you've worked so hard to raise. And so I would say, in at least 2/3 of our portfolio, I'm working with them to spend money and spend it faster.
Spend